Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question was suggested by a viewer. Thanks to Richard Baez for this one. Amy casts Living End, while Nick controls Dauthi Voidwalker. What happens? Alright, so the first thing that's going to happen in the resolution of Living End is all the creature cards from all graveyards getting exiled. The next thing that's going to happen is all the creature cards in play getting sacrificed. Now, Dauthi Voidwalker has a replacement effect, and the way replacement effects work is anytime something's going to happen in the game, immediately before that happens, the game checks to see if there's any replacement effects that might affect that event. So, for example, right before everything gets sacrificed, the game checks to see if there's any replacement effects that might affect that event, like, for example, by changing what zone the stuff gets put into. Of course, Dauthi Voidwalker's replacement effect does affect this event, and so that means, because it's in play immediately before the event's about to happen, that means that the game will see that replacement effect, and it will apply it as normal. That means that all of Amy's creatures are going to get exiled with void counters on them, while all of Nick's creatures get sacrificed normally. Finally, the last step of Living End's resolution is all of the creatures getting exiled this way getting returned to the battlefield. Now, unfortunately, all the creatures exiled this way does not include the creatures that Amy exiled as she was sacrificing them, only the ones that were exiled normally during the first step of Living End's resolution. So, all of the creatures that Amy exiled with void counters on them are going to stay exiled, and all the creatures that normally would be put onto the battlefield are going to be put onto the battlefield just fine. After all of the instructions on Living End have been performed, the last step in its resolution is to put it into the graveyard. At this point, the Dauthi Voidwalker is no longer on the battlefield, and that means that the graveyard is exactly where that spell will go. There is no replacement effect saying that it should go anywhere different. So, with all that said, there were a few other loose ends that I wanted to tie up before I sign off. First of all, because I know people are going to ask this, if you had a Sanctifier en-Vec instead of the Dauthi Voidwalker, you would have the exact same outcome. I mean, the Sanctifier does apply to only permanents of a specific color, and it doesn't have any void counters, but other than that, the ruling should be exactly the same. Next, if you have a Dauthi Voidwalker, and your opponent has a Living End with a void counter on it, then yes, you can use Dauthi Voidwalker's ability to cast that spell. You aren't using its mana cost, so it doesn't matter that the Living End does not have one. It's the exact same loophole you would be using if you were going to cast it off of, for example, Suspend or Cascade. This has absolutely nothing to do with the original question, but based on the thumbnail that I put out, I could easily see someone thinking that's what today's question was about, and I don't want to clickbait anyone. Finally, I wanted to talk about one other thing that might be bothering some of you. I kind of glossed over this during my explanation, but you might be wondering, why is it, exactly, that all of the stuff that got exiled with the Dauthi Voidwalker's ability does not count as being exiled this way during the resolution of the Living End? And I understand that this sort of deep dive rules stuff isn't for everybody, so if all you wanted to know was exactly what would happen in this situation, well, you can click off now. Be sure to leave a like and a comment for the YouTube algorithm. Okay, so for everybody who's left, the answer to this question is something called linked abilities. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you've probably seen or heard this term before, but if not, here's a definition. You can see that an ability is considered linked to another ability if one ability does something to a set of objects, and the other one refers directly to that set of objects. Going along with this, yes, it is possible for an ability to be linked to itself, and yes, the text on a spell does indeed constitute an ability. Bring back the definition, you can see that Living End's ability is indeed linked to itself in the way that I described here. So that means that when you have the ability saying the exiled cards, what that actually means is the cards that got exiled as a result of the normal process in this spell's instructions that's linked to this, and not to any other cards that might have happened to get exiled this way. So that's the reason why only creature cards that were exiled from graveyards during the beginning of Living End's resolution are going to get returned to the battlefield, and other ones that happen to get exiled along the way will not. And that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again tomorrow for another daily ruling, but until then, I hope you have a great day.